Picture this: the faint hum of a city that never sleeps seeping through a cracked window, the air heavy with the scent of yesterday's rain and exhaust. I'm Colette, 46 years old, perched on the edge of a life that feels like it's been stitched together with fraying thread. My world is a modest apartment on the 5th floor of a towering, weary building in the heart of this urban sprawl. It's a small space, barely enough room to breathe, cluttered with the odds and ends of a life shared with Roderick, my husband. He's pushing 49, a plumber with hands rough as gravel from years of wrestling with pipes and drains. Most days I wake to the ghost of his presence, an indent in the mattress, a cold pillow where his head should be. His job keeps him out there, chasing emergencies, unclogging the city's arteries while I'm here, tracing the cracks in our life. Every morning I shuffle to the kitchen, my slippers scuffing against the worn linoleum. I pour coffee into a chipped mug, the steam curling up like a whisper of something I can't quite name. I sit at our tiny table, alone, staring out the window at a gray cityscape that mirrors the dull ache in my chest. Skyscrapers loom like indifferent giants, their windows glinting with secrets I'll never know. The rhythm of my days is a quiet monotony, washing dishes that barely need cleaning, folding laundry that smells more of detergent than of us. Roderick's hours stretch long, often into the night, his phone buzzing with urgent calls that pull him away just when I think we might talk. When he's home, our words are sparse, clipped. "Did you pay the electric bill?" He'll ask, or I'll mutter, "We're out of milk." That's the extent of it, a marriage reduced to transactions. The silence in this apartment is a living thing, pressing against the walls, filling the spaces where laughter or arguments used to be. It's a heavy quiet, the kind that makes you hear your own heartbeat, makes you wonder if anyone else can hear it too. I feel it most at night, when the city outside dims just enough to let the loneliness creep closer. It's settled into my bones, this yearning for something, someone to break through the fog. I miss the way Roderick used to look at me, like I was the only thing worth fixing in a broken world. Now, I'm just another fixture in this cramped space, unnoticed, unneeded. Our building doesn't help. It's an old beast, groaning under the weight of too many lives stacked on top of each other. The floors creak with every step, a constant reminder of how little privacy we have. Through the thin walls, I hear fragments of other people's stories. Mrs. Callahan's TV blaring game shows, the young couple on the floor below arguing over something I can't quite make out. It's a cacophony of existence, and yet I feel utterly invisible in the midst of it all. That loneliness, it's not just a feeling anymore. It's a weight, a cold stone lodged in my chest that grows heavier with each passing day. I've started to resent Roderick's absence, even though I know he's out there busting his back to keep us afloat. I can't help it. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he even notices how far apart we've drifted. There was a night not long ago when he stumbled in at 2 a.m., the sharp tang of sweat and pipe grease clinging to him like a second skin. He barely looked at me, just mumbled a tired good night before collapsing onto the bed, his boots still on, tracking dirt across the sheets. I wanted to scream, to shake him awake and demand he see me, really see me, but I just turned over and let the silence swallow me whole again. To fill the empty hours, I've taken to my phone, scrolling endlessly through feeds that offer nothing but noise. I've joined online forums and chat groups, hiding behind a made-up name, spilling fragments of myself into the void. It's not much, but it's something, a flicker of connection in a world that feels so cold. I type out thoughts I'd never dare say aloud, sharing mundane details about my day or venting about the ache I can't shake. The responses, even the brief ones, feel like a lifeline, a reminder that someone somewhere is listening. It's become a small comfort, a way to escape the suffocating quiet of this apartment, where the only sound is the hum of the fridge or the distant wail of a siren outside. Lately, though, I've needed more than just the glow of a screen in my hands. I've started slipping out into the stairwell late at night, bundled in an old, worn cardigan that smells faintly of mothballs. I sit on the cold concrete steps, my back against the chipped paint of the wall, and I type away on my phone, the tiny clicks of the keyboard echoing in the empty space. The stairwell feels like a safe haven, a nowhere place where I can just be. The fluorescent lights flicker overhead, casting jittery shadows on the graffiti-scarred walls, and every so often, I hear the distant echo of footsteps from floors above or below. It's oddly comforting knowing life is moving around me, even if I'm not part of it. Out here, no one notices me, no one asks questions. I can disappear into my thoughts, into the words I send out into the digital ether, And for a little while, I don't feel so alone. Roderick, though, he's starting to pick up on something. I've caught him watching me lately, his brow furrowed with questions he doesn't voice. The other day, I was staring out the window, lost in my head, and I turned to find him standing in the doorway, his tired eyes searching mine for something I couldn't give. I've been sinking deeper into this secret world, this hidden corner of my life that nobody else can touch. Over the past few weeks, those late-night chats and online forums have morphed into something I never expected. It started innocently enough, just words on a screen, a way to pass the time. But then I found myself drawn to one particular stranger, someone whose messages seemed to cut right through the haze of my loneliness. At first, it was casual, little quips about the weather, shared frustrations about life's mundane grind. But slowly, almost without me noticing, our exchanges became something more, something personal. We started sharing pieces of ourselves, the kind of raw, unguarded thoughts I haven't spoken aloud in years. I told this person about the emptiness in my days, the way I feel like a shadow in my own home. And they listened, really listened, responding with a warmth that felt like a balm to wounds I didn't even know I had. Before long, those conversations turned intimate. I found myself waiting for their messages, my heart skipping a beat when my phone buzzed with a new notification. The words we typed grew bolder, laced with a kind of longing I hadn't felt in so long. I knew I was crossing a line, stepping into territory I had no right to explore. Every flirtatious message, every late-night confession was a betrayal of the vows I made to Roderick. But in those moments, I didn't care. I craved the thrill, the rush of feeling seen, desired, even if it was just through a screen. It was like I'd been starving for connection, and this stranger was feeding me something I couldn't get anywhere else. I told myself it wasn't real, that it was just words, just a fantasy. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. There was one night, a rainy evening that felt heavier than most, when everything shifted even further. I remember it so clearly. The sound of water pattering against the narrow window in the stairwell, a soft, relentless rhythm that matched the pounding in my chest. I was huddled on the cold concrete steps, my usual spot, wrapped in that old cardigan, my phone glowing like a tiny beacon in the dim, flickering light. The air was damp, carrying the faint, musty smell of the building, and I could hear the distant drip of a leak somewhere in the walls. I was lost in the chat, my fingers trembling as I typed out words I never thought I'd say to anyone but my husband. I confessed things I'd buried deep, how I missed being touched, being wanted, how I ached for a spark that had long since gone out in my marriage. Each message felt like a release, a whispered secret into the void. I even spoke some of those words aloud, my voice barely above a breath, as if saying them made them more real. "I wish I could see you," I murmured to the empty air, a thrill coursing through me, electric and forbidden. I was so caught up in the moment, so wrapped in the fantasy, that I didn't notice the world around me shifting. Then I heard it, a faint creak on the stairs above me. My breath caught in my throat, sharp and sudden, like I'd been doused with ice water. I froze, my fingers hovering over the screen, my phone still clutched tight in my hand. The stairwell, my safe haven, suddenly felt like a trap. My eyes darted upward, straining to see through the murky shadows cast by the weak fluorescent light. That's when I saw it, Roderick's shadow looming at the top of the landing, a dark silhouette against the faint glow. My heart slammed against my ribs, a sickening wave of dread washing over me. He was there, watching, listening. How long had he been standing there? How much had he heard? I couldn't move, couldn't breathe as he stepped forward, his heavy boots scuffing against the concrete, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. His face came into view, pale and drawn, twisted with something I'd never seen in him before, raw, unfiltered betrayal. His eyes, usually so tired and distant, burned with a pain so sharp it cut right through me. I'm standing here, frozen on these cold concrete steps, the damp air of the stairwell clinging to my skin like a second layer of guilt. Roderick is just a few steps above me, his hands clenched into tight fists at his sides, the knuckles white from the strain. The silence between us is agonizing, a suffocating void that seems to stretch on forever. I can feel the weight of his stare, heavy and unyielding, waiting for me to say something, anything, to explain myself. But my throat is dry, my tongue feels like lead, and every word I might have said dies before it can even form. I can't give him the answer he's looking for, because the truth is a blade I'm too afraid to wield. My mind is a chaotic mess, racing in 1,000 directions at once, scrambling for a lie, a half-truth, anything to soften the jagged edges of this moment. I think about saying it was nothing, just a meaningless chat, a way to kill time in the endless quiet of my days. But even as the excuses bubble up, they feel hollow, flimsy as tissue paper against the storm I see brewing in his eyes. I can't look away from him, can't escape the way his face is a map of hurt, every line etched deeper by what he must have heard. Outside, the rain picks up, its steady drumming against the narrow window growing louder, more insistent, like it's trying to drown out the tension between us. But it can't. It only mirrors the tempest inside me, the churning mix of fear and shame that threatens to pull me under. Roderick's voice finally breaks the silence, but it's not steady like I'm used to. It cracks, raw and jagged, as he demands to know how long this has been going on. Each word is a sharp, deliberate cut, slicing through the damp, stale air of the stairwell. I flinch, not just from the sound, but from the weight of what he's asking. How long? I don't even know how to measure it. Weeks, maybe more, a slow slide into something I never meant to let happen. But I can't say that. I can't admit how deep I've gone, how much I've let myself feel for someone who isn't him. The guilt crashes over me like a tidal wave, so heavy I nearly stagger under it. It's a physical ache, a tightness in my chest that makes it hard to breathe. I've hurt him, I know I have, and seeing it written so plainly on his face is almost more than I can bear. But I'm still too scared to confess the whole truth, too terrified of what it would do to us, to whatever fragile thing is left of our marriage. I stammer out something, anything, my voice trembling as much as my hands. I tell him it's just a friend, just someone to talk to, a way to pass the time when the loneliness gets too loud. The words tumble out in a rush, clumsy and unconvincing, and I can see in his eyes that he doesn't believe a single one of them. His gaze is piercing, cutting through my pathetic attempt at defense, and I feel exposed, raw, like he can see every secret I've tried to bury. The flickering light overhead doesn't help. It casts harsh, uneven shadows across his face, making the hurt and anger there even more stark, more real. Every time the bulb buzzes and dims, it's like it's highlighting a new facet of his pain, a new crack in the foundation of us. I want to reach out to touch him, to somehow bridge the chasm that's opened up between us, but my arms stay glued to my sides, paralyzed by the fear of making this worse. My phone is still in my hand, its weight suddenly unbearable, like it's burning into my palm. It's not just a device anymore, it's a symbol of everything I've done, every line I've crossed, every moment I've spent chasing something I had no right to want. I grip it tighter, as if holding onto it might somehow anchor me, might keep me from falling apart right here on these steps. But it doesn't help. The weight of that phone, the weight of my choices, it's all too much. Roderick's eyes flicker down to it, and I can see the disgust flash across his face, quick and cutting, before he turns away. Without another word, he starts down the stairs past me, his shoulder brushing mine just enough to send a shiver through me, a reminder of how close we used to be. His footsteps echo as he heads back toward our apartment, each one a hammer strike against the fragile shell of my composure. I stand there for what feels like an eternity, rooted to the spot, the cold of the concrete seeping through my thin cardigan, chilling me to the bone. My legs are shaky, trembling like they might give out under me, but I know I can't stay here. I have to follow him. I have to face this, even if every fiber of my being is screaming to run the other way. I force myself to move, one step at a time, gripping the rusted railing for support as I climb back up to our floor. Each step feels heavier than the last, like I'm dragging the weight of my guilt behind me. My breath comes in shallow, uneven gasps, the damp air of the stairwell sticking to my lungs. The flickering light above seems to mock me, buzzing erratically as if it's counting down to some inevitable explosion. My mind is still racing, replaying the look on Roderick's face, the raw pain in his voice when he asked how long this had been going on. I don't have an answer that won't destroy us further, and that terrifies me. By the time I reach our door, my hands are trembling so badly I can barely turn the knob. The creak of the hinges sounds deafening in the quiet, a warning of the storm waiting inside. Stepping into the apartment, the familiar clutter hits me like a punch. The worn couch with its sagging cushions, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter, Roderick's plumber's toolkit still sitting there from earlier today, its tools scattered like relics of a life we've tried to build together. It's a stark reminder of the years we've shared, the promises we made, and how far I've strayed from them. The air in here feels thicker, suffocating, charged with a tension I can almost taste. Roderick is at the kitchen table, his broad shoulders hunched, his back to me. He doesn't turn around, doesn't acknowledge me at all. He just sits there, staring down at the scratched-up tabletop, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug so tightly I can see the whites of his knuckles from here. The silence is worse than any shouting could be. It's a void, a black hole swallowing every unspoken word, every buried hurt, until I feel like I'm drowning in it. I stand there in the doorway, my feet glued to the floor, unsure if I should speak or wait for him to break the quiet. My heart is pounding so hard I'm sure he can hear it, a frantic drumbeat in the stillness. Finally, I muster the courage to step closer, my slippers scuffing softly against the linoleum, each sound amplified in the oppressive hush. I open my mouth to say something, anything. But before I can, Roderick's voice cuts through the air, sharp and low, like a blade honed by anger. "Who is it, Colette?" he asks, still not looking at me. "Who have you been talking to? What have you been saying? Why the hell did you think you needed to do this?" His words come faster, louder, building into a crescendo that makes me flinch. He finally turns his head just enough to meet my eyes, and the fury there, mixed with a deep, aching hurt, nearly knocks the breath out of me. I feel the tears prick at the corners of my eyes, hot and stinging, before they spill over, trailing down my cheeks. I can't hold it in anymore. The dam breaks, and everything I've been holding back comes pouring out in a shaky, broken voice. "I've been so lonely, Roderick." I sob, my hands clutching at the edge of the counter for support. "You're always gone, and I needed someone to talk to. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I swear I didn't mean to hurt you." My voice cracks on the last word, and I'm choking on the weight of my own excuses. They sound so weak, so pitiful even to my own ears. I can see in the way Roderick's jaw tightens, in the way his eyes narrow just a fraction, that my words aren't enough. They can't be. How could they be when I've carved such a deep wound into the heart of us? He doesn't respond, just turns his gaze back to the table, his silence cutting deeper than any accusation could. I stand there, trembling, waiting for something, anything, to break this unbearable stillness, but he gives me nothing. Eventually he stands, the chair scraping against the floor with a harsh, grating sound that makes me wince. Without a word, he walks past me, his shoulder brushing mine again, a fleeting contact that feels like a goodbye. The door to our bedroom clicks shut behind him, and I'm left alone in the kitchen, the echo of that click reverberating in my chest like a final verdict. The days that follow are a blur of oppressive quiet, a silence so thick it feels like it's pressing down on me, suffocating me in our tiny apartment. It's worse than it ever was before, this quiet. Before, it was just loneliness, a void I could fill with distractions, with the glow of my phone screen. Now, it's a punishment, a constant reminder of the damage I've done. Roderick and I move around each other like ghosts, our presence in the same space a mere coincidence rather than a choice. He leaves for work before the sun is even up, the sound of his boots on the linoleum a muted thud that I hear from the bedroom where I pretend to sleep. He doesn't say goodbye, doesn't leave a note, doesn't even glance my way. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, the indent of his body still warm beside me but already fading, and I feel the ache of his absence more acutely than ever. When I finally drag myself out of bed, the apartment is empty, the air stale with the ghost of his departure. I sit at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that's gone cold, and I stare at the empty space where he should be, my guilt a bitter taste on my tongue. I can't touch my phone anymore without feeling sick. It sits on the counter, a silent accuser, its dark screen reflecting my own distorted face back at me. Every time I even think about picking it up, my stomach churns, a wave of nausea rolling through me as I remember the thrill I once felt, the rush of forbidden words typed in secret. Now it's just a weight, a reminder of every mistake I've made. I've thought about deleting everything, erasing the evidence of my betrayal, but what's the point? The damage is done. Roderick knows, and no amount of deleted messages can undo the pain I've caused. So it sits there, untouched, a monument to my shame, while I try to navigate the wreckage of my life without it. There are small, painful moments that cut deeper than I expect. One morning, I'm wiping down the counter, trying to keep my hands busy, when I see it, Roderick's wedding ring, sitting there next to the sink, glinting dully in the weak light filtering through the window. My breath catches, a sharp, painful hitch in my chest as I stare at it. He's never taken it off before, not in all the years we've been together, not even when he's working with his hands in the grimiest of jobs. It's always been there, a quiet symbol of the promises we made. Now it's just lying there abandoned, a silent question I'm too afraid to ask. Did he leave it there on purpose, a message I'm meant to decipher? Or was it just carelessness, a thoughtless act in the midst of his hurt? I don't know, and I don't have the courage to find out, so I tuck it away in a drawer, hoping that one day I'll find the strength to ask him and finally understand. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.